The phone call between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump has officially ended. The call lasted roughly about 2 hours, and spoiler alert, there is no ceasefire. As we've been seeing with what Putin and Russia does all the time, is that when things get close enough and enough pressure is put on Russia, they tend to, yes, fold on some things, but then delay. And that's their whole technique. You know, you talk about Monday, it was supposed to be a ceasefire. Sanctions, okay? Or a ceasefire. Russia said, let's have a meeting. That meeting went nowhere. No signs that Russia wants to have any kind of real peace. Well, there should have been sanctions. Well, then Trump says, I guess Putin really wants to talk to me. Let's talk on Monday again. Okay? The phone conversation happened. There's, Putin saying things like, oh, well, we could do this and we could do that. When realistically speaking, Russia's economy will completely collapse if they stop their war, which is why Vladimir Putin's been pushing off ending this war. And so now we've got comments from Vladimir Putin, the Kremlin, and Donald Trump. Nothing from Zelensky, at least at this time. It is 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I wanted to break things down because Donald Trump said something in here that really made me angry. And if you kind of followed me over from TikTok, you would know that, yeah, I let one loose because there's something here that is very different than war that we shouldn't even be talking about. And we should never be rewarding Russia for what they've done. So let's go ahead and kind of back up for a second here. The conversation lasted roughly about 2 hours. Vladimir Putin was at a resort in Sochi. Even though they reported it was a school, it wasn't. He was at some kind of resort, holiday resort. Donald Trump at the White House. Before these conversations, Donald Trump spoke to Zelensky and other world leaders in which they reminded him like, yo, we just want a ceasefire, okay? We don't want anything but a ceasefire. Tell him there needs to be a ceasefire. And so moments after the phone call ended, we saw Vladimir Putin's team realistically come out and do a statement right away. It almost was like they already had things kind of lined up. So let's go over what the Kremlin said. Now, the Kremlin came out, but Putin also gave his own speech. And in it, the Kremlin said that Putin is preparing a document regarding a potential future peace treaty. Now, what does that actually mean? It's like making a framework to have a conversation about a conversation. It doesn't really mean anything. It's like an IOU for an IOU. Let's write something together to say that maybe down the line, potentially we could have a peace negotiation. We're nowhere near that step. The first step should have been a ceasefire and then let's talk. And then if things don't work, then more weapons, more sanctions, etc. Then we started hearing from Putin himself, who said that, Donald Trump has been kind of neutral when it comes towards things, and that he agreed with the president of the United States that Russia will propose and is ready to work with the Ukrainian side on a document on a possible future peace treaty, adding it might define a number of positions. For example, the principles of settlement, the timing of a possible peace agreement, and so on, including a possible ceasefire for a certain period of time if the relevant agreements are reached. So what it seems like to me is that we're going to do a ceasefire based off of multiple steps, but it's not a ceasefire now. It's a document that we're going to sign, which could start peace talks. And if those peace talks do start and they go in Russia's way, then slowly but steadily things could change, which I'm assuming would be the release of sanctions on the Russian side, which should never happen to begin with. He also said something which is like, he says here that Russia's position in the negotiations remain unchanged and requires the elimination of the root causes of the war, which is the same thing that Russia and Putin's been saying from day one, because the root causes for Russia are so many different things. One, they want the land. Even the land that they don't have, they want. Okay? They want Ukraine to pretty much remove most of their military. They want Ukraine to never join NATO or the EU or have any European peacekeepers inside of Ukraine. They want the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. They want Zelensky gone from power. Most of their military cut in half, if not even more. These are root causes that don't make any sense. Obviously, it's about mustache men and things like that, which don't exist inside of Ukraine. He wants the Russian language and Russian arts restored in Ukraine, which is like, you do know Ukrainians do speak Russian, right? So it's all these nonsense things. Essentially, he still wants Ukraine to surrender everything over the course of X amount of months. And that's why this agreement here makes no sense whatsoever. Now, we don't know what the agreement actually looks like. I'm on the Russian website TASS right now, in which all it says is that Moscow is ready to work with Kyiv on a potential peace treaty. And in it, they pretty much just outline exactly everything that we said here, in which Russia's ready and will continue to work with the Ukrainian side on a document on a potential future peace treaty, outlining a number of positions, such as settlement principles, the time frame for signing a potential peace agreement, and so on, including a potential ceasefire for a certain period in case irrelevant agreements are reached. And that's it. That was literally their only paragraph statement here. Now, we hear from Donald Trump, in which I find really interesting because Putin doesn't mention part of this, which is trade. That's right. Donald Trump, in his statement online, for some reason, made sure to highlight a lot about trade. And it bothers me to my core. And so let's go ahead and just read part of the statement on what Trump said. I just completed my 2-hour call with Vladimir Putin of Russia. I believe it went very well. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations towards a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. The conditions for that will be negotiated between the two parties, as it can only be, because they know details of a negotiation that no one else would be aware of. The tone and spirit of the conversations were excellent. If I wasn't, I would say so now rather than later. Russia wants to do large-scale trade with the United States when this bloodbath is over, and I agree. There is a tremendous opportunity for Russia to create massive amounts of jobs and wealth. Its potential is unlimited. Likewise, Ukraine could be a great beneficiary on trade in the process of rebuilding its country. He says that negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will start immediately. He's talked to Zelensky and Macron and Maloney and Meritz and all these people, saying the Vatican, even once represented by the Pope, wants to have negotiations there. Let the process begin. So the thing that really pisses me off, as someone who's been reporting on this war for over 3 years, as someone who's been going to Ukraine for almost a decade now, and have been studying things going on in Ukraine since 2011, I, as an American, and I'm sure you guys as Europeans, want nothing to do with Russia when this war is over. I know for a fact that the second the war is over, companies will be swarming back to Russia. You and I both know that. But just like in any other war, you have to punish the people that did the horrible thing to begin with. And when it comes to Russia, I'm a firm believer in order to make sure Russia never does this again, we have to punish them. Okay? I believe that sanctions should stay on Russia for a period of time if Russia does continue to not invade Ukraine and other countries. I also believe that companies in the United States, there should be a delay in allowing them to go back to Russia, whether it be 5 or 10 years. Once again, try to punish Russia for what they've done. Because sure, we talk about Ukraine all the time, but Russia has invaded other countries. Chechnya, Georgia, they do it politically. They go in there and they put money behind certain candidates that are very pro-Russia. You look at Hungary with Orban, right? You see how Russia is able to do this. They also interfere with every election. The Polish election, the Romanian election, the US election. They meddle in everything. And until we really truly put Russia in its place, they'll just keep doing it. And so when he talks about, large scale trade with the United States, and, obviously there's a lot of money to be made here, I don't care. I never want to see a US dollar go to Russia. That's the bottom line. Because they've attacked and killed civilians every single day. All because they woke up and they said, hey, let's hit a bus today. Let's hit a residential building today. Let's level cities. There are towns and cities that don't exist on maps anymore because Russia said, let's just hit every single building until it's gone. And so I am a firm believer that we need to punish Russia hard so that way they understand what they did was wrong. And that's the point where we're at. I don't like this whole trade thing. I want peace. You want peace. We want this war to be done with. But I want Vladimir Putin, the bad guy in this scenario, to be always labeled as the bad guy, and that his country should feel the effects of what their leader has done. Whether that be leaving sanctions on for a period of time, whether that is cratering their oil so they can't make as much money, whether it is stalling U.S. companies from ever going back to Russia. Once again, I know what's going to happen, and that's fine. It's just there needs to be a time period put in place so that Russia can truly feel the pain that they've caused in other countries, including Ukraine. Now, at this very moment, it is now 2:15, and we still haven't heard from Zelensky. I was kind of hoping that we would have by now, but as soon as we do, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated. But I honestly want your honest opinion in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I really appreciate you guys coming on to TikTok and subscribing, turning on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys are staying safe. I'll potentially do another video later, depending on what Zelensky says, but please do make sure you are subscribed and you turn on notifications. I'll see you guys later. Bye.